Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. Let's get right on into this thing. All right, folks, UCLA was not sold on Joey. We're going to talk about whether there's any truth to that. Also, we're going to have a Boo Carter update. Nico spoke out, talked a little bit about his time at Tennessee, moving to UCLA, all of that. We're going to cover all those things. But let's get into this whole thing with UCLA and Joey and their concerns and why they supposedly moved on to Nico. It's a story on A to Z Sports by Zach Reagan. It says Joey Halsley, the offensive coordinator, pushed back on a negative narrative that Deshaun Foster, who is the head coach of UCLA, created about Joey Aguilar. And this was a story that came out on The Athletic by Bruce Feldman. It said part of the reason UCLA was eager to add Iamaleava despite having Aguilar on the roster was because Foster wasn't sold on Aguilar's film study habits. It said UCLA had brought in, of course, Appy State Joey last winter in hopes he could spark the offense, but halfway through the spring, Foster wasn't sold on his connection to the receivers and his film study habits. And Joey Halsley was asked Tuesday about his about that very thing, Aguilar's film study, and he said it's a much different picture. So Joey's been high end at that since he's gotten here, ever since he got here in late May, said Halsley. He said he didn't start where everyone else was. He said he went back and did every single spring install that our entire team went through. He did that on his own in about 4 days, embraced it really well, and went out and walked through it all on the field at a high level. He's been going through summer ball the same exact way, so there hasn't been any fall off there. So what it sounds like Deshaun Foster wanted to justify his decision to pretty much do a 180. Look, he saw an opportunity to get a 5-star quarterback that they could never get, and he got him at half price. So he couldn't resist. That's pretty much what happened, and he probably just came up with something to make it sound like, oh, well, it wasn't that. It was just, I had a little concern here. And we'll see. Look, we don't know how Joey's going to do, but that sounds like a little bit of nonsense to me. And Joey went on WVLT and discussed the countdown to the season.
How about the experts? Everyone's saying Tennessee is maybe middle of the SEC this year. Some are saying bottom half of the SEC. You're still getting to know everything. Mm-hmm. Is that a bunch of junk?
Yeah, it's all rat poison. When you get stuck in that stuff, you try to prove other people wrong. But only thing that matters is the people in this building and this program, and we go out there and play for each other.
Yeah, there's Nick Saban's famous rat poison. That's actually the opposite, I think. I think it's a motivating factor. Rat poison for Nick Saban was when people lumped praise on a player or a team.
All that stuff you write about how good we are and all that stuff they hear on ESPN, it's like poison. You know what I mean? It's like taking poison, like rat poison.
Whereas we're getting disrespected left and right. Middle of the road, never make the playoff, can't replace Nico with a guy that's, played at Appy State, all of those things. We'll see. Let's hear what Greg McElroy has to say about Tennessee coming into this season.
Tennessee is one of those teams that's one of the biggest unknowns in the entire SEC. We don't know exactly what things are going to look like at quarterback. We think Joey Aguilar 2 years ago at Appalachian State had a really good year. Last year, it wasn't so good. Tried to do a little too much, took a few too many risks. Maybe he can now get back in a quarterback-friendly system to playing rock-solid football. I still think they're going to be great at running back, even though Dylan Sampson is gone. I still like what they have at wide receiver. I think they should be just fine there. I am also going to be curious to see how things work out along the front seven defensively. I think they're really good at linebacker, but there's some star power loss with James Pierce off to the NFL. I don't think that's a group, though, that's going to fall off a cliff. If they can adequately replace the pieces lost along the offensive line, and Joey Aguilar can look like he did in 23 as opposed to 24, this team will remain a problem in the Southeastern Conference.
And as you can see, a lot of people have Joey all the way down to number 16 as far as SEC quarterbacks, which is the very bottom. So again, the motivating factor for this guy's got to be through the roof and for this team. And I would guess what Tennessee's probably going to do is circle the wagons. And you've seen a little bit of that with this player council not putting up with a whole lot of stuff during the offseason. I think they're going in this season pretty serious. Yeah, here's another one's got him, actually got him 15th. They got Lenora Sellers, number 1. Garrett Nussmeier, then DJ Lagway. Arch Manning, number 4. He may end up being number 1. We'll see. Mateer at number 6. There's Diego at 5. Interesting. And here's some practice numbers. As far as completions, Joey Aguilar was 16 of 17, Jake Merklinger 13 of 18, and George McIntyre 13 of 15. So interesting. Here you can see him making a throw. And, of course, all these guys can spin it. You know, that's an easy throw for a Division I quarterback. Here's one to Mike Matthews. Again, that's a pretty easy throw for these guys. So there's a lot of talk about who will actually be starting, whether it's Jake Merklinger or Joey Aguilar. Probably Joey. You know, I'm 80, 90% chance on that. The guy's got, this is his 5th year, folks. Now, he spent 2 years at a JUCO. I'm almost wondering if he gets done. If he has a good season, he might try to stay another year or two, exactly the way Diego Pavia did, because if you play JUCO ball, based on that precedent in court, you can probably pick up another year or two in college, because in JUCO you can't make any money. And that was the argument Diego Pavia said. And I would think a guy like Joey Aguilar can probably make a lot more money in college if he has a good year than he would necessarily in the NFL. Although that all depends on what he does. If he shows out here in this Tennessee offense, you might see him do something like that. Folks, this is the most encouraging thing going for Joey Aguilar. If you look at all the quarterbacks that Josh Hypel's had in the past, they've all had success, and a lot of them had serious success. All the way from Drew Lock to Mackenzie Milton, who actually ended up hurting his leg. He was great. That was at UCF. Then Dylan Gabriel, who's now in the NFL. Hendon Hooker, who's at Detroit now. He had great numbers. But look at all these numbers. 30 touchdowns, etc. Even Joe Milton, who really had a great arm, but his touch was not really there, had a lot of overthrows. He had good numbers. And, of course, even Nico Iamaleava, who was really, he did the same thing. He had so many open receivers for touchdowns that he just overthrew. He still had quality numbers, 19 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Very similar to Joe Milton, which I believe his was 20 and 5. So Aguilar will probably have really solid numbers playing for Josh Hypel. His system eliminates a lot of turnovers, which was Joey's problem at Appalachian State. Plus, he was constantly behind. Appy State's defense was terrible, and he was having to play catch-up and really taking risks that you wouldn't take if you're in the lead. But when you're down 2 touchdowns, you've got to do what you got to do. And Appy State couldn't stop anybody. So I think that's what hurt his numbers a little bit in his second year. His first year was better. But the dude can sling it, and he's not afraid to throw it. That's one of the things we had with Nico. Nico was very gun-shy, and, of course, he was a redshirt freshman, but he didn't play with a ton of confidence. I don't think that'll be a problem with Joey. He might have too much confidence. And, of course, Josh Hypel's offense has been pretty much successful no matter what. You can see, like, the worst year he's ever had was 31.4, where he was the offensive coordinator for Mizzou. And then it went to 37. Then he took over UCF, where he averaged around 43 points, came to Tennessee, took over an offense that was averaging 21.5 under Jeremy Pruitt, immediately doubled it to 39, then went to 46, which was number 1 in the country. It pulled back with Joe to 31 and then 35 last year. So, I mean, we're going to score points. And he also proved that he can run the ball. Look, he's been running the ball with that offense from day one. Tennessee typically gets about 2,000 yards in rushing. Now, Sampson had like 1,500 of it, but the years before that, they were getting tons of yardage. He spreads out the offense, which spreads out the defense. It makes big, gaping holes where running backs can just run free. And Dylan Sampson had a field day last year with that system. So I think the offense is going to be fine. And Joey may not be a world beater, but I think he'll be a good game manager for Tennessee and make some nice throws and keep the offense moving and hopefully have some big splash plays. Now, the defenses have changed how they go against Tennessee. They go into what I call an umbrella defense with a lot of secondary players and trying to stop the splash plays. The key to that, for what I've been able to see, is going fast, and hopefully Joey can process very quickly and go as fast as Hendon Hooker did. Nobody went faster than Hendon. I mean, that dude had people up on the line so fast. If it was 3rd and 1, it was a guaranteed first down because he would get the guys on the line so fast the defense didn't know what to do, and he would just hike it and just boom, he'd have his yard. And that's a big deal. I don't know how many times I've seen offenses stopped on a 3rd and 1 because they get crammed by the defense, and now you're really in a tough situation. You might be at your own 40. Now it's 4th and 1 or 4th and 2. then you got a decision. Whereas if you can just jump up there and grab it quick, that takes a ton of pressure off the offense, and then boom, they can immediately go fast again. Now you got 3 plays, and that's when Tennessee cooked a lot of teams. Hopefully we can get back to that. Now let's have an update on Boo Carter. And Boo has been busy trying to kind of make up for missing a lot of meetings during the summer, and he's been going to Children's Hospital. I think he's gone 3 days in a row to meet with kids, and you can see him here doing exactly that, which I can tell you this much. If you are a player that gets out of sorts and you think, oh, well, I'm just not getting treated well, my life's not the way it should be, you go to a children's hospital and you see kids that are dealing with some serious problems, it will help get you clarity of maybe things aren't so bad. I can run a 4.340. You know, some of these kids, it's a good way to get somebody's perspective squared away. And it's good for Boo to help his maturity, which he clearly needs, and will make him a better person and a better teammate. And that's good for everybody. No matter whether he'd have gone to Colorado or stayed here at Tennessee, you want somebody to become a good teammate and a good person. And this, I believe, will help him long term. And it talks about how he steadily works his way back into the good graces of Hypel and his teammates. It says Carter, a preseason All-SEC selection, appears to be serving what is known as a de facto suspension, although Hypel has not identified his status in that way. So what I've seen is he's been practicing on the sidelines and doing a lot of individual drills and not necessarily part of the team in the practices, but that'll probably change over time. And that's, look, this type of stuff happens all the time with college football teams. It's just normally not in such an open way. But because of the way this happened during the spring and after the whole Nico debacle, it just became a whole big deal. But again, this happens all the time on college football teams. It really does. I don't know how many times there was guys, when I was there at Gibbs Hall back in the 80s, man, there was all kinds of crap going on all the time with players.
He ain't lying.
Anyway, I think this is a good thing. And he's going to be back part of the team without question, as long as he just keeps doing what he's doing. Now let's listen to Nico Iamaleava. He spoke about leaving Tennessee a little bit. Now, he was very careful with his words. I got to give Nico credit for one thing. He's not out there throwing bombs or giving the media anything they can really grab onto. But there was a couple of interesting questions on a show for CBS Sports, and I'll let you hear that.
So, I mean, like, you're going from a scene where you get 100,000 at a home game.
Yeah.
Now you gotta try to bring people out.
For sure.
What do you?
Yeah, no, that would be fun, man. Hopefully we could bring all of California out to the game, and that's our goal. We're really focused on us and what we want to accomplish for the year. And yeah, man, I love everything that the locker room has going on, our coaching staff, our weight room staff. So it's been great.
Yeah, good smart answer right there. He's obviously been coached pretty well, and I think he's got some savvy about him to understand. I've had enough. I think he's had enough of the circus that happened this spring. And I think a lot of other quarterbacks out there, you don't want to leave in the spring and put a team in a bad spot that's actually been really good to you when you're the starting quarterback.
Whoever gave him the advice to sit out killed that kid.
Regardless of how you bounce back from this,
You will be the example. He will have this as a stain on his career, and it's sad.
And the problem for Tennessee was all the starting quarterbacks had already been picked. It wasn't like if you'd have left in the wintertime when there was 30 really good quarterbacks out there that you could go out there and pick and choose. Tennessee might be lucky that they could even get Joey Aguilar, honestly. Spring is a tough time for quarterbacks to leave, and we've all learned that now.
Would you say you have closure now from your time at Tennessee?
Yeah, man. I'm really focused on my future and everything that UCLA that we have going on. Like I said again, our coaching staff has high expectations for us in the locker room, and we want to meet those. So I'm really focused on my future at UCLA.
Right, and your brothers too, being back. Were you surprised at all that he joined you in moving home, or did you guys? I mean, you obviously told him you were going to be going back first. I assume, right?
Yeah, for sure, yeah. I let him know, and, at the end of the day, he has to make his own decisions. And, you know, him coming back home was just a bonus for me. You know, having my little brother back on the team has been great. So, yeah, I think that was a real big bonus for him to come back home with, you know, our family. So.
Yeah, I don't think Arkansas was real pleased. They'd already started paying that guy, Nico Iamaleava, and he walked out on the contract and went right on back to UCLA, and they said, hey, let's just make it a family thing. And I think they've tried to get some of that money back.
Huh? Oh, yeah, I'll pay you soon.
Yeah, well, here's a suggestion. Have the money by tomorrow, and there won't be any problems.
Huh?
Yeah, 24 hours.
So we'll see how that plays out. But contracts, I tell you, until we get to some sort of collective bargaining, you're going to have players walking out on contracts all the time. Now, teams and universities can't walk out on contracts, but players, they can do what they want pretty much. That's obvious. So anyway, wanted to give you an update on all those things, the Joey Aguilar, Boo Carter, Nico speaking out a little bit. And we're getting closer and closer to our first ball game against Syracuse. And I know every team out there is trying to figure out their quarterback situation. And believe it or not, there are other teams out there that are dealing with some of this stuff, just not to Tennessee's level.
Are you serious?
For some reason, this offseason's been nuts. But anyway, if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Let's continue to cover all these big college sports stories. If you've not subscribed, boom, boom, boom. Hit that button right there. It won't cost you a dime. Help you get my videos. And right over here's the most recent video. YouTube, thanks, you'll enjoy. We'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.
I want you to know it's over.